This is gonna be a video showcasing a tool I made using CC Code's FXR node library, which basically allows you to find the ID of an effect by testing over and over and narrowing it down using colors. I'm first going to try and explain what the tool does and how it works. Then I'm going to show an example of doing this to find the IDs of the slash, of the moonlight, and the redshift. If essentially, the prerequisites to use it are just to have like a mod engine 2 mod ready, and just having mod engine 2 installed, having witchy BND, and having a node environment with the FXR library from CC Code installed. What does the tool actually do? You give it the path to a BND. It's probably going to be common effects. And then you give it the path of a mod directory. In this case, it's just called mod. Then, of course, you have to give it the witchy BND path and the batch file that runs EC6 with mod engine 2. What the tool does is in steps. Step 0 basically is going to be to copy the BND from the location you give it into the mod folder into SFX, so the correct spot. And then it's going to use witchy BND to extract it. Then it's going to make a backup of the effects folder of that BND, and it's going to create a second copy of it, which just has every single effect set to off, basically, like completely transparent off. It will then ask you to either do a sanity check, which is just going to be like, okay, is the effect actually disabled right now? Which will let you ensure that the effect you're looking for is in the BND you selected. You can also choose to start from a more restricted set of IDs instead of looking like at everything to begin with. But yeah, that's basically what it's going to do. Once you tell it to start, what it will do is set every effect to be disabled, once again by copying them from that folder it created. It will set the compression method, as you can see here. If it's crack max, it's going to set it to the one that's faster. Then it's going to basically take the ones it's currently looking at, like whatever range of IDs you're currently trying to inspect, and it's going to break it up into colors. Right now, I just have like 5 colors, which are red, green, blue, yellow, and white. And it will tell you what range each color corresponds to. Then you can select which color the effect you're looking for is, and it will close the game for you. It will also start it for you, of course. It will close it, narrow it down to just the range you selected, redo the process, so break up that range into colors again, narrowing it down, and everything else will still be off. Rinse and repeat until you narrow it down to a range that is smaller than the number of colors. At that point, it's just going to assign a different color to each effect and let you check the game for the last time. I've done some testing. It only really takes, like, starting from absolutely nothing, like 10 minutes, maybe less if you can like speed things up, like removing the movie intros and that kind of thing. Only about 10 minutes to figure out the ID I'm looking for, which is okay in terms of how long it takes. For this example, I'm going to try and find the slash, like the traveling slash of both the moonlight and the redshift. So let's just start with that. Gonna just start it. Then I'm gonna just show the console. No, right, process console. Stupid web storm. Right. So first of all, it's going to ask you if you want to, like, if you already know, say from running the tool previously, more or less, like if you have a smaller range, you can just specify that instead of starting from scratch every time. For this example, I'm just gonna start from scratch, but you can see that I have a notepad like plus plus window open, which is where I'm gonna write down uh a range for use later. So for now, I'm just gonna say no. What it's gonna do first is a sanity check. It's gonna turn off all the effects um in common effects, and it's just gonna ask you if the effect is actually disabled or not. This way you can actually tell, oh, this effect is from this BND or not. So I'm just gonna quickly load in. I already have, let's see. Yeah, I already know it's in here, so fine. I'm gonna tab out, go back to the console, and then just type N, which is gonna close the game. Now I'm just gonna give it a second to run through. And as you can see, it's basically broken up all the effects into 5 categories based on colors. And it tells you which range each color is and how many effects it has in that range. So I'm just gonna, once again, you're gonna see a lot of this because it's pretty repetitive. But thankfully, since you cut it down to a fifth every time, it never really takes more than like 2 or 3 runs to narrow it down to exactly which effect you need. The slash for the moonlight is blue, and so is the one for redshift. So once again, I tab out, and this time I type 3 because it's blue. The slash is still blue for the moonlight, and still blue for the redshift. So we just put in 3 again. We haven't narrowed it down enough yet. Let's see. Moonlight is red. Redshift is blue. So now what I'm going to do is right here, moonlight, and then just copy the red range, then redshift, and just copy the blue range. Let's start by looking for the moonlight's IDs. So I'm going to select one for red. Then we'll do a second run and get the ones for redshift. Okay, so now, yeah, yellow. Okay. So just gonna type 4. Now, since there are less IDs than there are colors, it's just going to assign a color to each ID, and as you can see, it tells you. So I'm just going to copy these under the moonlight. Nope. Said copy. The initial flash is green, and the actual slash, which is what we were looking for, is blue. So we found the one we wanted, which is 991906. So I can just press enter to exit. Now we're going to run it again. But this time, since we already know where the range for the redshift is, we're going to just specify that, which is going to make looking for it quicker. So just hit run again. Push your process console. Of course, you don't actually need to use like WebStorm. You can just run it in like a command line prompt. But, you know, for development, it's obviously easier to do it this way. So now I'm going to say yes to restricting it to a specific ID range. I'm going to take, since we have the range here, start ID and end ID. It doesn't actually care if you include the extension or not. It just fixes that by itself. So now we've already like narrowed it down this much. So it's only going to take like one more run to figure out exactly which IDs the Redshift uses. Oh, and of course, if I use the moonlight, invisible, because it's off. Red and red. So, 1. And now, once again, there are less IDs than there are colors, so it's going to assign a unique color to each ID. Just going to mark that one down as unknown. I actually have no idea. Copy these ones. The initial flash is yellow, and the slash proper is green. Wait. Yellow? Yeah, editor Lugia here. The reason I was confused earlier when I saw yellow was that because of what the console said, nothing was supposed to have yellow assigned to it. And I was right. Nothing had yellow assigned to it. It was just red and green, which was obviously making yellow because fucking color theory. So yeah, what I say after in the video, what I mark down isn't correct because the initial slash is going to be 992205, the red one, which makes sense because, as you can see, the moonlight initial slash also ends in 05. Whatever. We only care about the actual slash, which is green. So we know it's 06. And yeah, go figure. It ends in 06, just like the one for the moonlight does. I'm just gonna press enter. Yes, I changed it to close the game, and there we go. So yeah, that's how you can find IDs with this kind of jank but usable tool. Still a pain in the ass, but at least it doesn't take 7 hours. Okay, I had the idea to basically add a second mode to the tool, which is what I'm going to be showing off right now. This one is a lot simpler. Basically, it will enable each effect in the range you specify one at a time. Turn off every other effect. The one that's currently active will be like blindingly white. This is basically meant to help you once you've already sort of figured out the range of a weapon. That will then help you narrow down what each single ID does. So, just quickly switch over. Yep, okay, so here we go. Ignore the console, that's just output from testing I was doing before. Point is, yeah, okay, there we go, now it's clean. For example, as you can see here, the Redshift, looking at the files, you can basically find that it's gonna be 992200 up to 992300 or whatever. You don't have to specify ranges with files that actually exist. You can just use whatever number and it's just going to pick any valid IDs in that range. So for example, I'm going to start it again now. I'm going to start the script, I mean. It's going to do the usual thing where it sets every effect to off, unpacks, repacks, yada yada. Then it's going to, as usual, ask you if you want to narrow it down to a specific ID range. Of course, we're going to do that. So I'm going to say yes. Then I'm going to say from this to this. And now the new thing is that it asks you which mode you want to use. We're going to go for 2. 1 is the one that will show off in the rest of the video, of course. There we go. So as you can see from the console, we're starting with 2200. Okay, so now we're loaded in as usual. Every effect is off, except, yeah, of course, I need to switch to redshift. Every effect is off except that one. The red you see there, for the record, is not an effect. It's just part of the weapon, I think. Or it's an effect in a different file. Point is, it's not affected by common effects. Anyway, I've already done the testing. I can't figure out what this ID is for. So I'm just going to Alt-Tab out again. Like, I'm going to mark it down. Yeah, I'll copy the ID from here, mark it down in Notepad, and then just mark it as unknown. Then I'll hit Enter, which is going to close the game, rewipe all the effects, and switch to the next one. I'll spare you the boredom. Up until 5, I haven't been able to figure out what they do, so I'm just going to hit Enter and immediately skip to the next one for a couple of times until we get to the one that ends in 5. And here we are. So now, if I try to attack, there it is. Bright white, and it's the initial flash you get when doing an attack with it. So I'm just gonna copy that ID, mark it down, and say initial flash, which, as you can see, matches what we found earlier, but like, you get it. Like, this is meant to help you test a wider, like, custom range. Basically just a bunch of this. You try everything you can think of with the weapon and see if it actually produces something. There you go. It's the explosion. Hit explosion. Let's see. Sit. Okay. How do I describe that? I guess it's like the charge flash? Yeah, because it doesn't happen if it's not charging. Well, I'm gonna mark that one down as unknown, because I can't get it to happen. If this is the last one, no, second to last. It's not a quick process, but it's definitely better than the alternative, I think, which is just pain. Wrong weapon. Okay, there we go. That's the charged traveling slash. And yeah, go figure, the one that ends with 7 is once again a hit explosion, just this time it's the charge one. And there we go, that's it. That's basically how you can use the secondary mode to narrow down each and every ID in a range.